This is Irish Illustrated Insider. It's Monday, August 15th. A lot has happened since last week's podcast. I'm Tim Priester with Tim O'Malley from Irish Illustrated, joined as usual by Pete Sampson of The Athletic. And the two main things, obviously, that came out of Saturday, Tyler Buchner being named the starter, and the unfortunate news about Avery Davis in his sixth year suffered a torn right ACL on a jet sweep, no contact, just like the way he tore his left ACL last year against Navy. But let's start with Buchner being named. I think we said in the instant analysis, I don't know that we were anticipating the naming of Buchner as a starter on Saturday, but they want to get a jump on it. They want him in charge of the offense over the next 3 weeks.
I like it most because the way it was explained by Tommy Rees was, hey, there was a moment, even though there wasn't a moment that makes a decision where you look and say, this is what we want the offense to look like. Why delay it anymore? Let's go. That's exactly it. And the only surprise was that it happened to be that Saturday when we were planning on just talking to Marcus Freeman. There's no other surprise involved here.
Yeah, I like the you're leaning into what you think the offense is going to be, and there's a pretty clear message that the offense is going to be a lot different than with Tyler Buchner at quarterback than it would have been with Drew Pine at quarterback. And so you want to lean into those differences over the next 3 weeks and get as much work as you can for a guy who's going to be making his first start at Ohio State.
I wrote it, I don't know, at one point about, I don't know exactly how I phrased it, but I didn't say, Tyler Buchner winning the job. And I don't, did he actually win the job in camp? It was a decision made a short time after camp started. I think both Freeman and Rees emphasized that this was this goes back to the summer and the spring and everything that they thought about the offense. And I think they're going to need both. Tommy Rees said that Drew Pine is important to the program, and he is, because he is going to be called upon, whether it's an injury or to kind of revitalize an offense within a game setting. I think that's going to happen.
That's interesting usage, revitalize an offense within a game setting. That could happen. That's one of those things where, and I'm not pointing to Ohio State, I'm thinking more like when there's some more tape on Buchner and they run into a decent team on the road, things aren't going right. You're like, yeah, maybe we'll just pull back for a minute here. But it's still Buchner's job. I like that. That is a great way of using Drew Pine, and the best example of how we said he is a relief pitcher and he could be a relief pitcher. You hope that doesn't happen.
As long as you can put the starter back in.
No, yeah, but why not? You can put the starter back in. It's kind of like Drew Pine could definitely, like when Drew Pine went into Wisconsin, that was great. If Drew Pine never had to go back in for Cincinnati, it would have been better if Jack Cohn was playing really well that day, or if Tyler Buchner didn't have the pick. That would have been, it was suboptimal, even though he was like the emergency MVP of Wisconsin, that he ever had to come back in against Cincinnati.
I think you got to be prepared for Tyler Buchner to tweak an ankle or pull a hamstring. Yeah. I mean, that to me, that's more where Drew Pine is going to be called on. It's going to be injury related, not like, ooh, we need a spark related.
Well, I feel like that's a guarantee. I'm saying Tim's the first guy I've heard say reset the offense. That's a unique way of looking at it. I bet.
Yeah, and I'm sure. Look, I realize that they're not going into this thinking in those terms,
right?
But it's a long season. He's a young quarterback. He's going to make mistakes. If you have to do it, you do it. I mean, there's no reason why you can't, get a spark from the guy off the bench, but who your starter is. That's all I'm saying there. And I know that they don't want to. I mean, the last thing that they want to do against Ohio State is have to insert Drew Pine. I mean, I guess it'd be worse if it was a Tyler Buchner injury, but to have to insert Drew Pine in Ohio Stadium because Buchner's struggling. I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility, and as a first-time starter. That could very well happen. I'm sure that's not the plan. The Davis injury, obviously, is so unfortunate for him. And the kid has made every imaginable sacrifice for the program. He's been incredible. We've already got the question: could he come back next year? He could, but no football player in the history of Notre Dame that's not from South Bend has wanted to spend 7 years in South Bend. So. I don't anticipate that happening. But I wrote a story this morning, Tim. You covered it in a notebook following Saturday's press conferences. Just some of the things that they can do to compensate for the loss of Davis, and I guess it starts with the possibility of shifting some players from another position.
Tim, I think the point you made about Avery Davis sacrificing in every way for the team maybe should be brought up when you have these conversations. If you have a conversation with Xavier Watt or Jaden Bellamy, or as you wrote today, Philip Riley, like, I don't know if it's ideal for your career or not, but I think it's pretty darn important for our team that one of you is back there right now.
And I have no idea, Philip, I have no inkling that that's going to happen, but he's a third team cornerback. And I realize he's still, very young. He's a redshirt freshman, but I don't think they would want to move Ramon Henderson. I think he's closer to being the type of safety they want than a Xavier Watts.
Yeah, because the help, air quotes, help you're getting at receivers for practice, not for games.
Absolutely.
There's nobody you can move that's going to help you on a Saturday.
Well, only Watts, because he does have a strong background in it at Notre Dame with Tommy Rees as the offensive coordinator, new receiver coach. But even there, even there, it would be a transition back, and it wasn't like he blew them away when he was playing receivers, so there would be a lot to learn there. So, the other things that you have to really tap into the tight ends. We've seen a lot of activity for the freshman tight ends with the big boys through the first week. Eli Raridan and Holden Stays have been getting reps. I don't know how many first team, but certainly second team reps. And you have to get them more involved. This is really going to tap into Tommy Rees's creativity as an offensive coordinator. And I think if there's any coordinator that that has to tap into that, I'm pretty confident in Tommy Rees. But, the bottom line is he doesn't have all the weapons at his disposal that they would have had, even, just with Avery Davis included.
Yeah. He said on Saturday that they had enough offensive firepower, I think. Yeah. Offensively, we've got enough talent is what he said.
Right.
Some days I agree. Some days I don't.
Well, I think that there might be a little coach speaking that. You're trying to express confidence in your troops, and
you have enough offensive firepower for one game when nobody else is hurt. That's what he's saying. Right? That you can't just because we know in the next 4 months another receiver is getting hurt doesn't mean Tommy Rees has to think about it in the first press conference without Avery Davis.
Right.
The one issue I have, and Tim, I read it was a very well done column. I think Tommy Rees had to do all these things anyway before Avery Davis got hurt. He had to tap into the tight ends and the running backs because he didn't have enough wide receivers anyway.
Yep.
Put Avery Davis on the team. There's not enough wide receivers. So that means, all right, right now they have Lindsey, Styles, Thomas with reserves, and this is a difference, Tobias Merriweather and Matt Salerno. Maybe Joe Wilkins or Deion Colsey will play, but if they don't, they have 5. If you just said, all right, they have Avery Davis with those guys, you would never think Salerno was part of the deal anyway. So you're still using tight ends and running backs. Like they are now. It is just, you have to pray Matt Salerno doesn't get hurt.
Well, and he was, yeah, you're right.
You can't have 4 receivers for the game.
He was already in their plans in the slot.
Yes.
Now, how extensive that remains to be seen, but he was always in their plans because he can line up in the slot and turn out to his right, and he'll be open in the flat and you get him the ball.
Right.
It's not some of that isn't rocket science. You can get him the football. I don't know that he's going to, you'd like to think that he's Chris Fink-like, but he's not that good. So
yeah, I don't think he's that good. Yeah. But he's better than the guy that they don't have.
Exactly. And then, like I started
people count this right. Like people are like, oh, Joe Wilkins will be back and Colsey will be back. I don't know. Maybe, probably they will. Hopefully it's great. Joe Wilkins is the best news at camp for the wide receivers because we thought he was out until mid-October. So
yeah,
it's a great job by him.
I do think that he is as close as was indicated because of what I've seen on the practice field the last couple times. He is in uniform. He is running sprints across the back of the end zone at full speed. I know that that's not contact and all of that, but it looks to me like he's been gearing up to be ready to be full go here at some point. They're 19 days and counting now. And again, we said it in the instant analysis after practice Saturday. It's not like Joe Wilkins is going to be a physical different or be able to make a difference with his athleticism because he is what he is. But especially when you lose Avery Davis and his leadership, you need a guy like that, a 5th-year senior, to be on the field for you.
This is just where things are. We're talking about the sort of indispensability of Chris Salerno and a fifth-year senior with 11 career catches for 124 yards.
Yeah, I mean, you go down. I mean,
this is the reality of wide receiver roster management for Notre Dame right now.
You're counting on Colsey. You're counting on, Merriweather. I mean, these guys don't.
And you're counting on Colsey, who is missing, let's just say, a couple weeks of camp, and he was behind Thomas and not pressing Thomas to start anyway. So he was not. It's not like, oh my gosh, they lost Deion Colsey. It's, oh my gosh, they lost a backup wide receiver that they needed.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean Colsey can't all of a sudden be really good. It's just that he wasn't having a tremendous camp. Otherwise, we'd heard about it.
Yeah, he has got to turn it up. And, again, Marcus Freeman made it sound like, well, he said he'd be back. Did he say soon? We don't know what soon means.
Soon. Yeah.
But a PCL, again, you don't hear PCL very often, but I think guys bounce back from that a little bit more quickly. Let's conclude this section with a little bit of talk about Keon Keeley, because it certainly looks like, and now that Tom Loy from 24/7 Sports has indicated that he thinks he's going to end up at Alabama, whether he's already verbally decommitted from Notre Dame and committed to Alabama, it doesn't really matter. But it looks like the crown jewel of Notre Dame's class of 2023 is not going to be part of the Notre Dame organization.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. December is still 3 months away.
True.
But
true.
Yeah, he's not going to be part of it in August. Is the best.
I don't think if you verbally commit to Nick Saban, that decommitting from him, that conversation is a little bit more difficult.
I don't know. After Alabama's 7-5 backslide, you think Keeley might want to
you think
go
so?
ahead and do that? Yep. It's unfortunate. It is the crown jewel, and I will contend, no matter what anybody says, that there's a reason we talk about Notre Dame contending this year, and it's not because they have one good safety in Brandon Joseph. It's because they're defensive linemen, and Keon Keeley was going to keep that all going and maybe augment it. So still be great to get Peyton Bowen. Notre Dame needs better safeties. They've recruited the position poorly outside of about 3 people for 14 years. So it would be great if they can get Peyton Bowen and keep him in the fold.
Yeah, the statistics about the ability to contend for national championships without 5-star prospects are pretty alarming. Keon Keeley is a 5-star prospect, so it knocks Notre Dame down quite a bit. It's the position, the impact, but also just sort of like the look. Notre Dame is for how much recruiting has been on the uptick. Until you can start getting some 5-star guys to say yes, that's a place I want to go. It's very difficult to beat the teams where those 5-star guys are going.
This segment of Irish Illustrated Insider has been brought to you by Circa Resort and Casino. The biggest pro football overlays in Vegas are back with $12 million in guaranteed prizes only at Circa Sports. With two ways to win and no rake, Circa Sports million with quarterly payouts and 100% payback. Play Circa Survivor and select one team each week with no point spread. Take in the big money with $12 million in guaranteed prizes. Enter in Vegas, play from anywhere. Visit circasports.com for details. Segment 2 coming up, Burning Up the Boards. This is Burning Up the Boards, segment 2 of Irish Illustrated Insider. We start with a question from Greg Bell. Many were calling for Notre Dame to take a wide receiver or 2 out of the portal this spring. Do you think Marcus Freeman and Tommy Rees now realize that was an unwise decision considering Davis's injury and the state of the position group?
Depends on if we call it a decision or a result. Right? They wanted wide receivers. They didn't get them. The result is horrid. I think it might have been unwise that they didn't expand further than the 4 or 5 that were considered.
They're to the point where just anybody would have helped.
Yeah.
Like almost literally anybody, just to make practice work. And I think we mentioned this in the first segment, like whoever they moved there or whoever they took in the transfer portal, like wouldn't necessarily even have to help you on Saturday. You just need somebody to help you on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yeah.
But a player of any kind of consequence wouldn't want to walk into that situation. I mean, Harrison Wellman, he felt he had better opportunities in coming to Notre Dame. Ricky Pearsall from Arizona State and Charlie Jones from Iowa. I mean, Tim, I thought you put it in a good way. I mean, it wasn't so much of we're just not going to take a receiver from the portal. It was that they tried and missed on the guys that they liked, and then they weren't going to take a guy that they didn't think could help them.
Yeah.
Now,
it's
the
just
extra
when you
body.
7 or 8 receivers, you needed an
No,
extra body.
I know, but I don't think to portray it as just like an oversight on Notre Dame's part is
Right.
is accurate. Somewhere in between there is the reality of it.
Tell you what, to put a bow on it, we talked to Marcus Freeman. We wondered if they needed to get a receiver in the portal. It was June 27th. There's that, there's waivers, there's all that stuff. And that ship had sailed for this year. That decision probably should have been the ship hasn't sailed yet, because you were getting so close to realizing we don't have enough bodies for practice. That would probably be the decision at that point. Like, hey, you know what? We better get a guy that has caught passes in college football before to be a reserve on our team.
Well, I mean, they have enough.
They don't have enough. They don't have enough.
They have enough bodies for practice. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 walk-ons.
All right, but if iron sharpens iron, like offensive line and defensive line says, what are we talking about?
Totally agree. Those guys don't help your secondary. I totally agree. I just, bodies for practice. They do have bodies. The bodies just aren't good enough to give them their DBs the look that they need.
Next, Irish from A2. Will your perception of Tyler Buchner's performance this year be handicapped by the situation at receiver? For example, he threw a pick 6 in the Virginia Tech game, but Deion Colsey did not run a great route.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think I said in the last podcast that I know that there are going to be times where Buchner is being judged for a bad throw or airmailing something, and it will be a result of a missed assignment by a wide receiver. So sometimes that's obvious. Sometimes it's not as obvious but for the viewing public watching it on TV. But I mean, yeah, if there's one thing that Tyler Buchner needed this year was a veteran receiving core, and he doesn't have that. He's got a couple guys that he's going to have to lean on that have plenty of playing experience, including Lorenzo Styles, that have to really step forward and be good and stay healthy. But he needed an older receiving core, and he does not have that overall.
Please save this audio to run pretty much every Saturday during the season, because once the season starts, the quarterback doesn't get any break on this at all.
Yeah.
Ian Book got shredded in 2019 when he was working with Ben Skoranek and Javon McKinley instead of Miles Boykin and or Chase Claypool. The receivers make a huge difference. And Tyler Buchner's sort of at a little bit of a deficit there, unless Lorenzo Styles is like answering the bell all 13 games.
The Irish Rover. Michigan ran the ball 41 times for 291 yards and passed it 20 for 190 against Ohio State. How close to those numbers does Notre Dame have to be to win on September 3rd? This is a heck of a question, and we probably could have used it on game week, but still very good question.
291 yards. I mean, I just don't see that.
No, but give me 201 yards and 220 passing.
Yeah, I'm always reluctant to put a number on it. Through the years, that's always kind of what do they need in order to, and I'm reluctant to do that because that you can be right. You can have 25 yards rushing, and if somebody snaps off a 55-yard touchdown run, your overall numbers are still average, but you just scored on a big play. So, but having said that, but having Michigan having had that kind of success, you're gonna have to run it well, man. I mean, you got to lean on your offensive line. You believe in your offensive line. You got to lean on it. I think, part of it is that Tommy Rees can't abandon the run even when it's not there, which they did against Oklahoma State, the last game they played. And oh, by the way, the next game that they play is against the same defensive coordinator. So I would expect Ohio State's run defense to be significantly improved in some ways with Jim Knowles as the coordinator.
I think the 40 carries is probably the number that I would latch onto the most, more than whatever the yardage is. I mean, it's like you look at the games Ohio State lost. It's whether Oregon or Michigan, that team committed to the run, and they were very, very good in situational football. With two fourth down stops and a fourth down conversion, but. The 40 rushing attempts. If you told me Notre Dame had 40 rushing attempts in Columbus, I'd be like, all right, well, that was definitely a game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I also would like to point out, if Notre Dame rushes for 291 yards against Ohio State, they are going to beat Ohio State in the horseshoe.
Definitely.
Because most teams that run for 291
tend
to win these games if they have anything else going on.
Pete, I'm glad you point out that 40 carries. That was always a number for Charlie Weiss.
Yep.
Where do you suppose Charlie Weiss got that from? Bill Belichick. If you're running the ball, if you carry it 40 times, which the state of Notre Dame's receiving core, I imagine that's possible. But if you're carrying it that much, you're controlling the ball, you're controlling the clock, you're taking the crowd out of the game a little bit to some extent. And that would be a big help. Question from Need a Turnover. How much of Maris Leofold do you expect to see against Ohio State? His pass rushing ability seems like a known, but what about his coverage skills? Can he play when Notre Dame is in a nickel set? I'm guessing he will be involved in the base defense.
The weirdest development in camp for me is that Maris Leofold has said he's 100% and he has no restrictions and he is restricted on his way back. It's just a strange.
And Marcus Freeman indicated again the other day.
Yeah, it's an odd thing. I think he'll play plenty and he won't start, is the way I would say it.
I'd like to see him, sub packages. I think you need Bauer and Bertrand out there on 3rd and 11. That's
no, you don't.
Leofold
that would
really
actually be criminal call right there.
So
okay.
Yeah, I think Leofold may start the season as a little bit more of a situational player, which I think actually says probably more about Bertrand than it does about Leofold. Like, people forget the whole Bertrand playing with one hand all last season. Now he has two hands, and I think that'll make a difference because, like, you talk to people around the Google, it's like Bertrand's football IQ is just like off the charts, and coaches love that. That's the guy that's reliable. That's the guy they put in the game.
It would be hard to find a linebacker duo like Bertrand and Kaiser that has a higher football IQ than those two. I mean, it's really pretty remarkable. I expect Bertrand to start against Ohio State. There's no doubt that Maris Leofold's heavily involved. The question about his coverage skills, he single-handedly changed the direction of the 2020 game at North Carolina with what he did to North Carolina slant game. So that's where he's at his best. Nickel set. Yeah, they're going to rotate linebackers. Bertrand needs to be on the field a lot because of his knowledge and his presence, but Leofold needs to be on the field in those situations in order to beat Ohio State in their passing game.
And we have a question about this coming up, so we'll move on to Training Dave. And here it is. What are the personnel projections for third down defense, dime, and goal line defense? Snuck up on me.
Yeah, Tim, you probably have the whole list there, but some of the guys that there's absolutely no doubt that Jaden Mickey is involved in nickel and dime.
Yeah. And I think Maris Leofold, there's absolutely no doubt he's involved in nickel and dime.
Yes, absolutely. Tariq Bracy, of course. And then Brandon Joseph is on the field. Certainly Cam Hart is on the field. I think Mickey's the 5th DB when you go to nickel.
Well, I don't know, because 5th is Brace. Oh, you're saying you pull a safety? Because Bracy, Lewis, Hart, Joseph. I was always thinking Mickey is the guaranteed passing nickel or dime, I don't know if you're pulling your starting safety and DJ Brown. Bracy's the first corner on. Bracy's the nickel.
Right. Yeah, Mickey is your 4th corner, but not maybe your 5th DB.
Because you probably don't pull DJ Brown for that.
No, I think you do.
You could.
Okay.
On 3rd and 17, you're pulling. You want Mickey out there.
I see what you're saying. Well, that'll be interesting. We know that Jaden Mickey's going to be heavily involved over the course of the season.
I think. Bertrand. I think definitely comes off in nickel, because Bo Bauer and Jack Kaiser have a history of playing nickel, and we're already inserting Maris Leofold. What do we? Mm-hmm. How many players do we have here?
Well, and let me just say, Leofold needs to be scheme sound. We know that physically he belongs out there. Especially in dime, but he needs to be scheme sound. And that, Tim, when you talk about, why isn't he getting, why is he say one thing and the coaches say another? I think a lot of it has to do with whether he's scheme sound.
And then Justin Adamiola did mention he and Foskey are starters in the sub packages. So as you would guess, Justin and Foskey are out there.
Absolutely. And Mills probably,
I would think
Mills bumps inside.
Yeah. But Jason Adamiola's never come off the field in these things. So they have options and they'll play them all. I think there'll be a lot of guys playing these sets.
Now, as far as goal line, we saw Aiden K9 working in there last year. I don't know if that was more preseason or whatever. He's banged up. He's not ready. I think a guy like Gabe Rubio is a prime candidate to be in the game in goal line situations.
I think it's where Chris Smith. That's why he's here.
And Chris Smith, absolutely.
I don't think Chris Smith is giving you a lot on 1st and 10, but I think he's giving you a bunch on 3rd and 1.
Yeah, no doubt. You mean 35? That Jason Adamilola was explaining that he wears number 65, but we call him 35 because he did 35 reps of 225 bench.
Howard Cross said he's the strongest football player he's ever seen.
Oh my God.
Howard Cross has been around some people.
And Howard Cross is a pretty strong dude himself.
And he's been around some guys. He even talked about going to Alabama with his dad for Hall of Fame induction and thinking how big these people were. He said it's the strongest guy I've ever seen. So he can't. All it did was help. You know what? They went out there in that portal and they got a guy to help, Tim. Think about that. They had 18 defensive linemen. That's there.
Yeah. Didn't even have to start.
No, we would
play a little bit.
We would like to say that we will be there for Thursday scrimmage, so we will come out of there and tell you, what they're doing in sub packages and goal line, but we will not be allowed in that practice. We will be there on Friday when they are in shorts and standing around.
Let's hope they're not in shorts.
When they're in shorts, standing around taking instruction about what they did wrong and right the day before. So I'm not sure how much of a clip, and that's all.
That's on purpose. I get
that's
that.
all planned. That's all planned, and we knew. I think we indicated several times along the way that Marcus Freeman was going to be very careful about what he showed to the media leading up to his first game in his first full season as head coach.
Next from Marty Mahoney. What is the likelihood of Matt Salerno getting serious time in the receiver rotation this year? In the practice video Notre Dame posted, it looks like he's making some plays.
He's going, I don't know if I'd say serious time, but he's going to play. He's going to play slot receiver. If he's open, throw him the ball, gain 7 yards, go back and do it again. I mean, it's not, he's not Chris Fink, but he's a guy that he can catch the football and give you a little bit of yardage.
I think he'll be your 6th receiver. 6th receiver gets
in terms
about
of receptions,
75 snaps during the season. So yeah, I'd say it's pretty realistic for Salerno.
6 or 8 catches.
Yeah, he has to play.
Maybe 10. Yeah.
There's 5 healthy ones right now, and he's one of them.
Yeah.
Another one is an extremely gifted Tobias Merriweather, who at some point, there's a rookie wall you hit, and you're not awesome, so you need Salerno for that day too.
Yeah, you do, but you keep running Merriweather out there, of course. No doubt. I mean, no doubt about it. He
plays well.
Yeah, we've heard that he can be a little tough on himself at times, but Notre Dame obviously Stuckey is attached to his hip many times in practice, but you keep running him out there and you got to play him through mistakes. It's just normally you don't do that. They don't have much of a choice. Right. David Lopez 5, in your limited practice viewing, how much of a focus has been placed on ball security? We can answer this.
Yeah, decent amount. I feel like we've seen some different drills. Like there's that football that has like the chain attached to the tip of it, and Dylan McCullough was trying to rip it out of the running back's hands. So yeah, I don't know if it's any more or less than it has been in the past.
Yeah,
but it's a focus, as it should be for every team every year.
They've opened some practices with it, so we can definitely say we've seen it. We've seen certain. That's what I always joke about. Jordan Botello is going to kill you, knock the ball out of their hand. Jaden Mickey takes it seriously, tries to mug people. Benjamin Morrison was all over. Was it Merriweather? He was just trying to rip the ball away. It's good that they practice it, but I'd like to point out that Notre Dame never fumbled under Autry Denson as running backs coach, and their ball security was darn good for Brian Kelly. So let's not pretend like Marcus Freeman's the only guy that's ever paid attention to detail in a practice.
While we're talking about this, we get a lot of questions about, are you seeing a difference in practice, how the coaches work with? Can you guys share an opinion on that? Because, I think there's something like ball security. We've seen a lot of work on ball security. But I don't know. Okay. Is Chancey Stuckey a better communicator to his players than Dell Alexander? Yeah, I think that's true. I think their personalities are different. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, these coaches are way better than the coaches that they had before, because the coaches that they had before won 54 games in 5 years. So
I'll say Harry Hiestan's better than Jeff Quinn, though.
Harry Hiestand, well, yes, Harry Hiestand.
Well done.
Quinn was vocal. They're vocal in different ways. But yeah, absolutely. We all concur that Harry Hiestan's a real quality offensive line coach. But
I was going to add something, but now I don't want to. That was too good. All right.
I don't want to. I just don't want to. I feel like I'm making stuff up. If
Dylan McCullough is very animated. Dylan McCullough is a very animated coach. It's fun to watch on the sidelines. Yeah.
Is he more animated than Lance Taylor? Probably a little bit.
Yeah. Doesn't mean you're better when you do that.
Yeah,
but
Lance Taylor's an offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Yeah. But
John McNulty's an offensive coordinator.
Like, some of the differences are
those are good coaches.
He's an animated guy. He's an animated guy that I think gets his players' attention. And it's probably really good for his small, young room that they have him. Maybe that's the best way to say it. But
yeah, I would agree. I just don't want to disrespect them. First of all, I want to be accurate. And secondly, I don't want to disrespect a bunch of guys that did a hell of a job coaching this football team from 2017 to 2021.
Jim_Booney CRS. How much credence do you give to the statement that Joe Wilkins will play for Notre Dame versus Ohio State?
Again, we've already addressed this. I mean, I'm less skeptical than you, O'Malley.
Can I add one more reason why I'm skeptical?
Sure.
I think Notre Dame needed good news to be announced at that press conference. And the great news is that Joe Wilkins is going to help Notre Dame this year. So then like the over the top good news is, hey, I think he can play against Ohio State. That's kind of how I take it.
Yeah, it could be similar to Brian Kelly, early days Brian Kelly, when he would set extremely optimistic return timelines. I think because he thought it put a positive pressure on the player to keep up with rehab and keep training and all that. And I get it. But I would say that the idea of Joe Wilkins playing like serious minutes against Ohio State seems like kind of a reach to me.
Well, the only reason that I would differentiate it from the scenarios that you are pointing out is that I've seen them. And I've seen Joe Wilkins running around on the field in a football uniform, not live, but the fact that he's in uniform when he's not participating in contact.
That's true. It's
just a step closer. And again, 19 days, if he's a step closer, is a pretty decent amount of time.
To put a bow on it, our old friend Ethan Johnson, who had a broken foot Purdue week and was limping through the Goog, and Brian Kelly said he expected him to play. We were pretty sure he wasn't going to play. That was a lie. This is not a lie. This is just positive reinforcement.
Question from Teddy95. Will Davis's injury mean Tyree spends more time in the slot position, especially if Diggs continues to progress?
I think that was part of the plan anyway. So maybe more time is negligible. I think Chris Tyree was going to play a lot in the slot because he wanted to use two running backs.
A healthy Tyree and a healthy Diggs, you're gonna see two backs on the field because of, well, really the versatility of both of them. I think Diggs can be a good pass catching running back. Williams was the best, Kyron Williams last year, but Tyree's pretty good at it too. So definitely. Again, it taps into the creativity of Tommy Rees. I think formationally, he's as creative as anybody. And so we're going to see a little bit of everything, especially Chris Tyree. You know, we say slot. Well, can you line them up? You line them out wide too. Right. You know, you can do a lot of things. And I one thing I'm confident in with Tommy Rees is his creativity when it comes to formations. He's very, very good at that.
Yeah, I guess I don't care. Go ahead, Pete.
I was just saying, when Reese says offensively, we've got enough talent. When I think like, okay, yeah, buy it, is when I think about Tyree out there with Diggs or out there with Estime and moving around. I was like, okay, then suddenly you're like, okay, you've got a chance to like do some interesting stuff here with some really talented guys. You're not just trying to trick somebody with a formation. You've got talent too.
Right. Plus, I know the crux of the question, but I don't care if Tyree lines up in the slot or in the backfield as long as he catches passes.
Yeah. Hey, Pete, Tim and I have been talking about this. How much have you seen Holden Stays? Like in action?
A lot the first day when we got the full practice. but less the other ones.
Yeah,
but I haven't been watching the tight ends.
Yeah, I think you were
He
on speaking tour when Tim and I were the other day.
He put together a couple practices, Pete.
Oh my God, he made a play downfield down the middle of the field, a contested high throw that was slightly behind him. I was a field and a half away width-wise from it, so I didn't see everything perfectly. But that kid looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
When I talked to people in the summer, I was like, who are the freshmen who've impressed? It was Merriweather 1, but then it was Stays and Morrison 2 and 3. So yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised at all that he's turning heads based on because he already had done it before the first practice.
And and Raritan, we all like Raritan.
Yeah,
but I mean, just as far as size, explosiveness combination, I've seen more from Stays than Raritan, but Raritan's in play certainly as well.
I know Stays' number now. First time I saw him make a play, I was like, who the hell is that? And then second time I made a play is like, is that him again? And now I know Holden Stays number 85 downfield. CMU Pens fan, do you think this Notre Dame offensive line is good enough to control the line of scrimmage versus Ohio State?
Control the line of scrimmage. At times, yes.
Yeah.
I do. I don't really, what does control the line of scrimmage mean in a game against Ohio State?
40 carries.
That's fair enough. That's fair. That's a good 40's high. I'll take 35.
clean pockets for Tyler Buchner most of the time when in a non-passing situation and in the occasional passing situation. Like, there's a lot that goes on with this, and we forget that Ohio State did not have a typical Ohio State defense last year, but they have a lot of great football players that are going to make it hard for Notre Dame at times.
And keep this in mind. Okay, what you're talking about reminded me. I mean, blitz pickup by the running backs is going to be critical. In these kind of situations. Kyron Williams, not surprisingly, whatever Kyron Williams tried to do, he was pretty good at it. He was good at it. Diggs still has to prove that he can do that. He's got to use that shoulder to absorb some of that. But how good is Tyree going to be when he's consistently asked to be a protector of Tyler Buchner? That remains to be seen.
Next question. Go ahead, Tim.
Question from Maxwell 2378. According to your calculations, how many touchdowns / interceptions will Tyler Buchner have this season? I've thrown numbers out already. And when you say touchdowns, include the rushing touchdowns.
Yes.
I don't know if that's what the intention of the question was, but I'm asking.
No, I'm concluding it too. I did it for Monday Musings a few weeks ago, which is how certain we were he was going to start, if you're wondering. And I put it in the Kaiser first season realm of 31 combined touchdowns in that area. He gets an extra game and a half over Kaiser. Well, we hope. It doesn't have to have an extra game and a half over Kaiser, but Kaiser's first start was game 3 and he played half of.
Oh, I was going to say game and a half. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, of game 2. So ideally he'll have an extra game and a half. So I put it in the 31 range with hitting double digits for sure running the ball for me. For sure, healthy Tyler Buchner will run for 10 or more touchdowns. I am not. I should double down for another prediction right there. Ian Book was getting 9 regular. Like Book got 9.
So how many interceptions do you have him down for?
I would put him at the 10 range again as well.
Okay, I go 29 and 12.
Yeah, I know. If you said 12, I wouldn't blink. I agree.
I've been saying 25 touchdown passes, 10 interceptions. I'm going to reduce. People ask us all the time.
You got to reduce.
Now that this happened, how do you feel? I'm going to reduce the touchdown passes to 22 or 23. But I have to agree with you, O'Malley, on the running touchdowns, because when they get in the red zone, I mean, they're going to call that number.
Heck yeah.
Tommy Reese is going to call that number a lot. QB draws. From the 17, a quarterback draw that he sprints into the end zone on. So
Jack Cohn threw 25
30-some.
TDs last year. Remember that. Cohn threw 25 TDs last year, although he had a terrible line and he would have thrown more if he had a better line. Ian Book, as the first-time starter, so he was about 10 games, right? 10-game starter, nine-game starter. He threw 19, I believe. He's like a 9-game starter for that playoff team. He threw 19 for a playoff team. I mean, what did Wimbush throw for? It's not like they had more than...
What Claypool had 15 of them?
Oh, no, I was thinking the year before, but yeah, Claypool. He threw a ton his 2019 season.
Okay.
But remember, they played Bowling Green and New Mexico State, so I think he had about 6, 7, 8 touchdown passes there. He threw over 30 in that year.
We all mentioned this a while back. The red zone. I mean, I don't really care what the numbers are for Tyler Buchner, but the red zone touchdown percentage needs to be really, really good. And I think it certainly has a chance to, if you can find a go-to guy at receiver in the red zone, that may be, Merriweather, somebody like that, Jaden Thomas, who's got good size and strength and plays to his strength.
The tight end will catch a couple red zone passes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Him too. Yeah. He might be, I think Michael Mayer might be able to carve out some space in the end zone. All right. We're going to wrap up with a question from Dollar Bills. Please talk about the announcing tandem of Jack Collinsworth and Jason Garrett. NBC recently announced this. How could such an important broadcast be filled with these two inexperienced people? So the Notre Dame broadcast is where you now learn on the job at NBC. Are we?
Go ahead, Pete.
I'm not even going to ask the question.
No, I was going to say, not to be a smart ass about it, but no, I'm not even going to say it. I don't know. I don't know. It's not.
It's a whole season of learning on the job, is what you're saying, Pete.
Yeah. I just. I'm not surprised because this is what I heard was 99% going to happen 2 months ago. And I don't know if NBC has announced it. I thought just the New York Post reported it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You're right.
But I'm surprised. I'm still surprised that they went with kind of an inexperienced booth for national broadcasts. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, I could see inexperience one, and then all-time sage experience next to him, or something along those lines, or next to her. You need. It's a strange that it's a double inexperienced booth with Jason Garrett, and I don't care about the Notre Dame connection. I mean, I think I'm open to listening to Jack Collinsworth do play-by-play. It's not the same thing as what he did with Corey Robinson on the sideline before games, which is a very difficult watch. But I think it's a different situation if he's going to sit there, and you'll be studying all year long everything that you have to be talking about if you're going to be a good play-by-play person. So we'll see how that goes. Jason Garrett's I don't know. People like vanilla ice cream too. That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, I think Garrett will add insight. I haven't heard him a bunch. I've seen a little bit. I didn't think he was awful.
I like Drew Brees. I like Tony Dungy. We'll see if I like Jason Garrett.
We have a tendency to just pass judgment before it's happened. But I don't think Mike Monaco has a background in football announcing. But
I think he probably, he would be great. I think, eventually, if he wants to be, I bet he likes his gig with the Red Sox and so much baseball.
Does. I spoke with him about it in Omaha. Yeah.
Oh, good.
He's living the dream. But to me, that's a professional announcer. I don't think
totally agree. Totally.
I don't think he's done football, but people looking for professional announcers that graduated from Notre Dame. Although Mike Monaco would not. He'd show enthusiasm for Notre Dame, but he would call it straight because he's a pro.
Yeah.
That still looks like he's 18 years old.
He does.
I said when I knew you in college, you looked like you were 12. Now you've grown up to 18.
Mike Monaco worked for Irish Eyes and me for one time when I was on spring break. Had a very good, very good reporting that day for.
All right. Well, there's
Charlie
our Monaco.
Weiss's,
there's our Monaco plug.
Practice.
He's a good announcer. He's a good kid too. Wrapping up, we are going to shortly from here. We're going to Notre Dame to talk to Chancey Stuckey and the wide receivers. The timing is good as far as interviews with Chancey Stuckey and the wide receivers. So O'Malley and I will have an instant analysis after that. Guys, thanks for joining us, and we appreciate it. Everybody joining us for today's Irish Illustrated Insider.
This is Mike Brown, former Notre Dame Leprechaun, here to share the Leprechauns Game Day at Notre Dame, an officially licensed children's book that celebrates the magic of a football Saturday at Notre Dame. Follow me on an adventure from Step Off Under the Golden Dome to ND Stadium with this perfect gift for Fighting Irish fans. Visit www.lepgameday.com and enter Irish to get your author signed copy today. Go Irish!